So I've been asked to come and speak to you and finish up tonight about what it was like to stand as a candidate for the Women's Equality Party. And as Becky said, I was up in Edinburgh for the past 10 years. I started the first branch of the Women's Equality Party back in the spring, having followed some of the meetings on Twitter. We formed a decent sized group and we had our first public meeting, which wasn't dissimilar to this, in the June of last year. The group grew and a mixture of motivated women and men decided that the best way to put the core aims of the Women's Equality Party out there to the masses was to stand in the upcoming election, which was in the following May this year. How this happened is probably a bit distorted, but I spoke to some national press having had no media training and was asked, so are you planning as a political party to stand in the May elections? And I went, yeah, I think so. And then that got widely reported that the Women's Equality Party would be standing in the Scottish elections that May. There was a few phone calls from London asking whether I'd had my media training, and I said, yes I have, and got pulled up quite sharp on it. But that set the ball rolling, and we stood and started campaigning in Edinburgh and in Glasgow for the national elections in spring of this year. We had 4 candidates in the Lothians. Lee Chalmers was our brilliant lead candidate, and then there was myself and 2 others. And we went about and campaigned, the 4 of us candidates, plus probably a group of 6 core activists and a few others who came and went over time. And we campaigned. We knocked on doors, which was the canvassing that Sophie talked about, which I'm kind of glad she's gone, because I'm going to put it out there, it's excruciating for the first 10 doors you knock on. It's terrifying, nerve-wracking. You finished work, it's 6 p.m, and the last thing you want to do is go knocking on doors, asking people, have you registered to vote? Are you planning on voting? Who would you vote for? Would you vote for the Women's Equality Party? But the more we did it, the more we realised that people were truly engaged, and once they'd heard about the party and heard about our core aims, it seemed that everybody had a reason to want to vote for us or to consider voting for us. There were first-hand anecdotes about, I know, so someone on the doorstep saying, I know that I'm getting paid less than my male counterpart. I have no idea who to go to about this. It's not talked about in the workplace. And if I speak up about it, I get shut down. There was the dad saying that it breaks his heart that his 5-year-old looks in the mirror and says, Daddy, do I look fat? 5 years old, like, it's disgusting. So people were gradually getting on board and wanting to get more and more involved. We also did hustings that Sophie talked about, which were also terrifying, where you sit on a panel like this alongside the other political party candidates in your region, and you get grilled on questions. And we only had policies on our 6 core aims, and we're being asked about what do we think about the green belt, what do we think about all of this. And we were allowed to express our personal views on these things, but anything within remit we took party line on. And we knew that we were doing our jobs at putting women's equality at the top of the political agenda, when in every hustings there were questions being asked about what are the parties doing on equal pay? What are the parties doing about equal education? We knew at that point we were doing our job. The 5th of May rolled around and I pulled a sickie at work and took the day to stand outside a polling station, and we weren't allowed to ask people or tell people how to vote, just stand there with our badge on and a sign that said the Women's Equality Party all day, which was great. But then at 8 p.m, when we rallied everyone together and went out to the outskirts of Edinburgh to the Royal Highland Centre, sounds grand, is basically an aircraft hangar. We went out for the count to watch the votes coming in. I thought again was going to be thrilling. Turns out it's a long drawn out process and nothing really happens till about midnight. So about 1 in the morning, I decided to take myself away from the group and walk up and down all the tables where people were counting votes. And I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to count how many tables have got a pile of votes for the Women's Equality Party, because you can kind of see. So I was like, 1, 2, 3, went round and got 6, 7 tables and was like, shit, there are votes on every table. So I went back to the beginning and started looking at how big are the pile of votes for the Women's Equality Party. And I was like, they're bigger than the other two parties of similar size to us. At about 3 a.m, the Green Party candidates were coming up to us, who, let's face it, were all volunteers who had gone, this sounds like a good idea. Like, what are we doing at 3 a.m. at the count? Green Party coming up being like, you're pushing us for votes. You're doing really well. And at that point, we started to believe. Because when I was on my way to the Highland Centre, I have to admit, despite all the positive feedback we got, I was thinking, if we get 100 votes, that would be incredible. That's 100 people who have gone, yeah, like totally buy into what you're saying. It's going to be people's mums, it's going to be people's mates, it's going to be people's colleagues who have gone, all right, yeah, I'll vote for them. At about 4 a.m, the vote count came in, and we got upwards of 3,000 votes in our region, which was more than the other two parties of equal size combined. And these other two parties had had all the press coverage, they'd had thousands of followers on Twitter, they had vehicles going around the streets with megaphones. And I was like, we're never competing with this. We've got 10 of us who are going in between our jobs and our lives, knocking on doors. But we totally did it, and it was exhilarating, but also one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was exhausting, canvassing in the rain when you want to do anything but knock on that door was horrible. But once you start chatting to people and realise the appetite for change is there, it's probably like the coolest thing I've ever done. And I really want to see the same thing happen here in Cambridge. And I saw on Twitter just now, scrolling through some of the coverage of tonight, and people saying, are they planning on standing in an election here? I don't know what the line from central office is, but I'm probably going to get pulled up again as I did last year. But I would say 100% yes. Like, we're a political party.
I've said that we are already. We need to get Rachel on side from head office, so
but we need
train us up, and that's fine,
we need everybody here to contribute to that, whether it's just an idea of what you want to see change. And I'll now quickly explain this. This is my other passion, is dementia research and Alzheimer's, which if you flick through this book, you'll see affects women way more than it affects men, both biologically and because we're much more likely to be carers and have to leave our work for it. I care passionately about this and about equality in healthcare, and I want to bring that to the table for Cambridge branch to take seriously. But there's probably stuff that everybody here is like, actually what I really care about is, and what I need everyone to do is have a think about that. Speak to one of the people with lanyards on, email us, whatever you want, just let us know what you want to campaign on and what you want to get involved with and come along. Like, it is, as I said, one of the hardest, most tiring things I've ever done, but also one of the absolute most amazing and coolest things I've done, and I'd encourage anybody to do it and get involved.
Yeah.